There's an engine sitting in the back corner of my shop right now with a hole punched clean through the side of the block. The man who owned it was proud of his gas mileage. Every trick he used to save a few dollars at the pump is the reason that engine is now a boat anchor. That's the cruel joke of fuel economy. Half the things drivers do to squeeze out a few extra miles per gallon are quietly destroying the single most expensive part of the car. I've torn down more than 3,000 engines, and I've watched careful, sensible people gut a perfectly healthy motor chasing pennies. Pennies that end up costing them thousands. 11 of these are the worst offenders. Some are habits you picked up somewhere. Some are features the car maker built in and printed on the window sticker like a selling point. And the one at number 1? It'll cost you less than a tank of gas to fix. Almost nobody catches it. And it's burning your engine down a little more with every mile you drive. Number 11, short shifting to save fuel. To stretch their mileage, a lot of drivers upshift as early as the car will let them and then cruise around at the lowest RPM the engine will tolerate, especially up hills. It feels efficient, low revs, quiet engine, needle barely off idle. Here's what that lugging is actually doing. When you ask an engine turning that slow to pull a real load, the pressure inside each cylinder spikes and the fuel stops burning smoothly. It detonates. That's knock, and every knock is a tiny hammer blow landing on your pistons, your rod bearings, and your crankshaft. Think honestly about how you drive up a long grade or onto the highway. If you're babying the throttle in top gear, watching the tach sit down near idle and feeling the engine strain, that low rumble you think is saving you money is the sound of metal beating itself to death. The fix is to let the engine breathe. Drive in a gear that keeps the RPM in its comfortable working range under load instead of lugging it down at idle. You will barely see the difference at the pump. The engine will last twice as long. A spun rod bearing from years of lugging is a $6,720 rebuild. Letting it rev a little higher costs you nothing. The next one you don't even choose. The car does it for you every single time you stop, and the manufacturer calls it a feature. Number 10. Letting auto start-stop run wild in traffic. It's the feature that shuts your engine off at every red light to save a sip of fuel. In stop-and-go traffic, it's killing and restarting that engine dozens, sometimes hundreds of times in a single trip. Here's what they don't put in the brochure. For a split second, on every restart, before the oil pump builds pressure again, the engine spins on metal touching metal. Manufacturers designed the bearings and oil systems to survive it, up to a point. In real-world city traffic, the fuel you save is a few cents, and the wear is real. The special heavy-duty battery and beefed-up starter these systems eat through aren't cheap to replace either. I've pulled bearings out of start-stop engines that lived in the city, and at the same mileage, they show more wear than the identical engine that spent its life on the highway. Not catastrophic, but it's there on the surface every time, and it adds up on a car you plan to keep 15 years. The fix takes one finger. Almost every car with this system has a button that switches it off for the drive. When you're crawling through bumper-to-bumper traffic, press it. You'll spend pennies more in fuel and spare the engine hundreds of pointless restarts. The heavy-duty battery these systems burn through runs about $880 when constant restarting kills it early. The off button is free. Number 9. Running regular when your engine asks for premium. You've got a turbocharged or high-compression engine, and the manual calls for premium. But premium costs more, so you fill up with regular and pocket the difference. Here's what most drivers never understand about octane. Octane is nothing more than the fuel's resistance to exploding before it's supposed to. An engine built for premium is tuned tight, expecting that resistance. Feed it regular, and it knocks. The computer hears the knock and yanks back your ignition timing to protect the engine, which quietly steals the very power and mileage you were trying to save. Push it hard enough, in enough heat, and the computer can't pull timing fast enough. The detonation gets through and hammers the pistons. A real estate agent near Phoenix drove a 2018 Chevy Malibu with the 2.0-liter turbo. The fuel door said premium, and she ran regular for 2 years to save money between showings. In Arizona, summer heat, the knock finally got ahead of the sensor and scored a cylinder wall. The repair came to $5,940, so read your fuel door. If it says premium required, that word is not a suggestion, and you buy premium. If it only says recommended, regular is perfectly fine, and you tell anyone who says otherwise to keep their upsell. That cylinder cost her $5,940. Premium would have cost about $9 more a tank. Number 8. Chasing mileage with oil that's too thin. Somebody hears that thinner oil means less drag, which means better fuel economy, so they start running a lighter grade than the manual calls for. Or they stretch the oil changes out to save a little more. Here's the part that trick leaves out. That oil film thickness was calculated for the exact clearances inside your engine. Go thinner than spec, and the film breaks down under heat and load, and metal starts touching metal in the bearings where it never should. The mileage you gain is a rounding error, the wear is permanent. Two identical engines came through the shop, both right at 130,000 miles. One ran the exact grade printed on the cap and got changed on schedule. The other ran a thinner economy oil and stretched the intervals to save a few dollars a year. The first engine's bearings looked nearly new. The second engine's bearings were copper-colored and scored, a few thousand miles from knocking itself apart. Same engine, same miles. The only difference was what got poured in. The fix is almost insultingly simple. Run the exact viscosity printed on your oil cap, not whatever a forum told you saves fuel, and change it on the interval in the book. A bottom-end rebuild from that kind of starvation runs $4,310. The correct oil costs maybe $8 more per change. That one wears your engine down slowly. The next one can cook it in a single afternoon. Number 7. Blocking the grill to warm up faster. This one's a cold weather mileage trick. People tape cardboard or strap a winter cover across the front grille so the engine warms up quicker on frigid mornings and burns less fuel while it's cold. Here's what they don't think about. You just choked off the airflow your radiator depends on to stay alive. On a slow cold crawl, nothing happens. But the day you climb a long grade or sit stuck in traffic with the heater pulling hard, the coolant temperature starts to rise and there's nowhere for that heat to escape. A night shift nurse in Buffalo taped cardboard across the grille of her 2015 Honda Accord every winter to save on gas. One February, she got caught behind a closure on the interstate. The temperature gauge climbed into the red and stayed there, and by the time traffic finally crawled forward, the head gasket was already gone. The bill came to $2,860. The fix is to trust the engine. A modern motor reaches operating temperature fast on its own without you smothering it. If your car came with factory grille shutters, those manage winter airflow safely and close on their own when it's safe. Don't tape over a cooling system that's the only thing standing between you and a melted engine. That gamble cost her $2,860 to save a few dollars in winter fuel. Everything so far has been about how you drive. The next one is about where you fill up, and it's quietly killing more engines than any habit on this list. Number 6. Always buying the cheapest no-name gas. To shave a few cents a gallon, some drivers will only fill up at the cheapest off-brand pump, the bargain place on the corner, whatever sign shows the lowest number that week. Here's what almost nobody knows about the gas going into their tank. Not all gasoline is the same, and the difference has nothing to do with octane. It's the detergent additive package. Top-tier rated fuels carry a much heavier dose of the cleaning additives that keep your fuel injectors and intake valves clean. The bargain stations are legally allowed to run the bare minimum, and over thousands of miles that skimped additive lets carbon cake up exactly where the fuel sprays. AAA ran a direct study on this, comparing top-tier gasoline against the cheap stuff, and the engines fed bargain fuel built up dramatically more carbon, several times more in some tests, gumming injectors and valves until the engine ran rough and started to misfire. Drop a comment and be honest with me here. Do you fill up at a name brand pump or just whatever's cheapest on the way home? I want to see how many of you have been doing this. The fix doesn't mean buying premium, and it doesn't mean the priciest station in town. Just fill at a top-tier rated brand. There's an official list and most major names are on it. Even if it's 3 cents more a gallon, that little bit buys you a clean fuel system for the life of the car. Cleaning carboned injectors and decarbonizing the valves runs about $1,290. The next one isn't about the fuel you buy, it's about how low you let that tank drop before you finally buy it. Number 5. Running the tank down to fumes. To stretch a fill-up, or because they figure a lighter car burns less, plenty of drivers ride that low fuel warning light for days, squeezing every last mile before they finally pull in. Here's what's happening inside the tank while you do it. Your fuel pump lives down in the tank, submerged, and it uses the fuel around it to stay cool and lubricated. Run that tank near empty over and over, and the pump runs hot and exposed, and it starts drawing from the very bottom of the tank, where years of rust, grit, and sediment have settled, and sends that debris straight toward your injectors. I replace a lot of fuel pumps that died long before their time, and there's a pattern I can spot before the owner says a word. They're almost always the empty tank drivers. The pump strainer comes out caked in sludge that was supposed to stay at the bottom of the tank, and the pump motor is burnt from running dry one too many times. The fix is to move your definition of empty. Treat a quarter tank as your new bottom and fill up there instead of chasing the warning light. The pump stays cool, stays submerged, and stays well above the layer of filth at the bottom. An in-tank pump replacement runs $740, more if the grit reaches your injectors. Filling up a little sooner costs you nothing across a whole year. Quick reminder before the last few, if even one of these has saved you a breakdown, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It's free, and it's the only thing that keeps these videos coming. Number 4. Stretching your plugs and filter to save money. Spark plugs and an air filter are some of the cheapest maintenance on the car, which is exactly why skipping them feels like free money. So people run them tens of thousands of miles past due and keep that cash in their pocket. Here's the trade they don't realize they're making. Worn plugs and a starved air filter don't just cost you a little mileage, they cause misfires. And every misfire means raw, unburned fuel is washing straight down your cylinder walls, stripping away the thin film of oil that's protecting them and accelerating wear with every mile. That same unburned fuel pours into the catalytic converter, overheats it, and melts it from the inside. A delivery driver outside Atlanta put 140,000 hard miles on a 2016 Honda Civic and never once changed the plugs, all to save a few dollars. It started misfiring, he kept driving, and the raw fuel finally cooked the catalytic converter. That repair came to $1,630 for a set of plugs and a filter he could have replaced for $190. The fix is the simplest insurance on the whole car. Change your spark plugs and air filter on the interval printed in your manual and never stretch them to save a few bucks. The next one is the opposite mistake. Instead of skipping something cheap, drivers go out and spend money on something completely useless. Number 3, bolting on fuel saver gadgets. The magnets that clamp onto your fuel line, the little plastic tornado that swirls the air in your intake, the chip you plug into the port under the dash. Every one of them promises 10, 20, 30% better mileage. Here's the truth, nobody selling them wants you to hear. At best, they do absolutely nothing except lighten your wallet. At worst, the ones that claim to lean out or optimize your fuel mixture actually fool your sensors or push the engine leaner than it was ever meant to run. And a lean engine runs hot enough to burn valves and scorch pistons. The Environmental Protection Agency has tested well over 100 of these so-called fuel-saving devices over the years, and virtually none of them delivered any real improvement. Some of them made the engine run worse. The fix is to keep your money in your pocket. There is no magnet, no chip, no swirl gadget that outsmarts the engineering already built into your car. Real fuel savings come from correct tire pressure, a clean filter, and a steady right foot, not a gizmo from a late-night ad. Most of these things run about $120 and give back nothing, and the lean mixture ones can hand you a top-end repair on top of that. Real savings never came from a gadget, and the most dangerous version of this isn't a cheap magnet at all. It's something a shop will charge you good money to install, and it ruins your engine in the exact same way. That's number 2. After that comes the cheapest fix on this entire list, the part I've been promising you at number 1. Number 2, paying a shop to tune your car for mileage. This is the gadget's expensive cousin. Instead of a cheap magnet, the driver pays a shop real money to reflash the engine computer with an economy tune that promises a few extra miles per gallon. Here's how that free mileage actually gets made. The quickest way to squeeze more distance out of a gallon is to lean out the air-fuel ratio. Burn less fuel for the same air. The problem is that your factory ratio was set slightly rich on purpose, because that extra fuel is also what cools the combustion chamber. Lean it out and the temperature in there climbs, and now your exhaust valves and piston crowns are cooking on every stroke. 2 identical trucks came through within the same month, both with the same engine and similar miles. One was bone stock the way it left the factory. The other had paid for an economy tune a year earlier. The stock truck's valves were clean and sealing fine. The tuned truck had 2 exhaust valves burnt half away, leaking compression, and was running rough enough that the owner thought he'd lost a head gasket. The fix is to leave the factory calibration exactly where the engineer set it. If you want better mileage, change how you drive. Don't pay someone to remove the safety margin that's keeping your engine alive. That burnt valve job ran $3,490. And here's the thing that should bother you most. The driver paid money to cause it, when the one part that genuinely controls his fuel was sitting right there, costing less than a tank of gas. That part is number 1. Number 1, the oxygen sensor you've been ignoring. Here's the cruelest irony on this entire list, and the reason I saved it for last. The single most important fuel-saving feature on your car isn't something you bought or installed. It came from the factory. It's a small sensor screwed into your exhaust called the oxygen sensor, and its only job is to read your exhaust and tell the computer exactly how much fuel to deliver to get the best economy and the cleanest burn. Here's what nobody tells you about it. That sensor wears out. Somewhere around 80 to 100,000 miles, it goes lazy, still alive, but slow and inaccurate. When that happens, the computer stops trusting it and falls back to a safe default, which means dumping in extra fuel on every drive. Your mileage quietly drops, and that constant, rich mixture washes your cylinder walls and slowly poisons your catalytic converter. And the whole time, your car is trying to warn you. That check engine light glowing on the dash is very often this exact part. But the car still runs fine, so people ignore that light for months, even years. A retired electrician in Cleveland drove a 2014 Toyota Corolla with the check engine light on for 2 solid years. It ran fine, he said, so he left it. What he didn't notice was his mileage slipping a mile or two per gallon every few months, and the rich mixture quietly eating away at things. By the time he came in, the catalytic converter was destroyed, and the engine was burning oil from washed-down cylinders. The converter and cleanup came to $1,870. The code that had been stored the entire time was a lazy oxygen sensor, a $46 part. So here's the fix that could have saved all of it. Never ignore a check engine light. Get the code read. Most parts stores will do it free, or a basic scanner costs less than a dinner out. And if you're past 90,000 miles, treat the oxygen sensor as wear, not as a part you replace only after it's destroyed something. A $46 sensor is the difference between a car that sips fuel and lasts and one that drinks it down while it quietly kills its own engine. 11 features, 11 ways to turn savings into a scrapyard. And the smallest, cheapest one on the list was the most dangerous of them all. That check engine light is talking to you right now, and most drivers have no idea what it's saying. I made a video that shows you how to read those codes yourself with a scanner that costs less than this one repair. It's on the screen right now. Tap it, and you'll never walk into a shop blind again.